Introducing Serpentor, the ultimate Cobra Emperor.
Serpentor! Serpentor! The most evil foe of G.I.Joe!
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle! And welcome, my friends, to main character May!
And the main character we'll be looking at is... Serpentor!
Well, you already knew that if you looked at the title of this video.
In part 1, we'll be looking at the toys.
So, let's see Serpentor's first toy. Sorry, let's try that again. Sorry, it's just too much.
Look, here's what Cobra figures looked like before this point. Nothing too outlandish. Then 1986 hits and boom! Total 180-degree turn. I mean, Liberace would tell this guy to tone it down a notch.
But hey, this is what we're stuck with, so let's dig in.
Meet Serpentor. This figure was released in 1986 with all original body parts. And it sure is a thing, isn't it? I know I usually just show the figure without accessories at first, but you really need to drink all this in from the get-go. So, what were they going for here? Well, I'd say regality, which I guess got conveyed. And maybe they were going for some intimidation too, which they failed at.
So much.
Now, it's easy to keep mocking this toy.
And I will, but it deserves some praise too.
The detailing on this guy is incredible. From the snake scales on the golden parts, to the ribbing on the yellow parts, down to the waist piece. Yes, his crotch is ribbed, for your pleasure. To say nothing of the fine work on the green snakes that double as shoulder pads. Hell, even his gloves are frickin' snakes. Yeah, whoever sculpted Serpentor poured a lot of love into his or her labor.
Too bad that all that love got poured into something that belongs on a carnival ride, not a terrorist organization.
Like I mentioned at the beginning, the accessories are essential here. The glittery robe is a nice addition. Well, for a professional wrestler or a male stripper, not Cobra, but still, it complements the figure. And so does the headdress. It attaches to him like a backpack, but acts like it's part of his head and really completes the look. By the way, Serpentor is one of the few Cobra figures that doesn't have the Cobra symbol anywhere on him. But I think that's only because his whole freaking head is the Cobra symbol. He also came with a pretty unique looking dagger, which is nice.
All this leads me to conclude that this is a very well-made figure, just one that I don't personally like.
I'll gladly admit this is my own personal bias speaking, as I never liked Serpentor as a kid. He looked too weird, and I always preferred Cobra Commander as the leader of Cobra. So, adult me really doesn't have a problem taking down an iconic figure like this.
But we're not done, as Serpentor was also a vehicle driver. Well, technically anyway. Yeah, when it comes to vehicle drivers, there are 3 categories really.
On the bottom tier, you've got figures that were vehicle drivers, and only that. The point of the toy was very much the vehicle, and the figure was just a bonus, an afterthought. These characters weren't seen much in other media, but the vehicles were. I'm thinking of guys like the Stinger Driver, Viper Pilot, or Toll Booth, for example. The first 2 never showed up in the comics or cartoons, and even their file cards were copies. Toll Booth did have a character, but you only ever saw him when you saw the bridge layer.
Middle tier is when the characters are just as important as the vehicle.
Guys like Ace and his Sky Striker, or Thrasher and the Thunder Machine. There's a perfect balance there.
Top tier is when the vehicle is a mere afterthought, and it's the character that's important.
Guys like Zanzibar and his Airskiff, or Sergeant Slaughter and the Triple T. Hell, I'd even consider CoverGirl in this tier, even though the Wolverine kicks 12 kinds of ass. And Serpentor very much belongs in this tier, more so than anybody else even. He's the Cobra Emperor, not the driver of the air chariot, his vehicle. Hell, the vehicle wouldn't even exist without the character. Calling him a vehicle driver would be like saying the Pope is most well known for being the driver of the Pope-mobile. Yes, I know, he doesn't drive it himself. Leave being pedantic to me, alright? I just compared a flying golden Cobra vehicle to the Pope-mobile.
My show goes to strange places sometimes.
Anyway, let's take a look at the Serpentmobile. Meet the air chariot. This toy was released in 1986, duh, it came with Serpentor, with all original parts. It's almost entirely colored gold. Yeah, they really don't know the meaning of the word subtlety, do they? Still, there's probably an advantage there if you charge at the enemy in the sunlight, since they'll all be blinded instantly. And to be fair, the Cobra head provides some protection from people shooting at you, unlike other vehicles I could mention. Also, the Cobra decal is slightly different from the normal ones, as these have a crown to denote the Emperor.
I wonder if he has that on his luggage too.
The toy has several play features. Laser cannons that can move sideways, fins that can move, and a turbine part that can really rotate. Not sure if that's a great design, considering the guy wears a cape. I think that's just asking for an accident. And finally, the steering wheel can move sideways, which also moves the Cobra's head. It is a neat little feature, though it's also a problem if you try to find this toy on a secondary market, as the head comes off really easily, and so it's very easy to get lost.
Overall, it's a unique if weird little vehicle.
But you know me, I'd prefer it if the thing was in more traditional Cobra colors. Boom! That's what I'm talking about. I love customizing this stuff. And that was the only toy Serpentor ever got in the original line.
But we're not done yet, as he did get a few more figures later.
Meet Serpentor. Again, from 2002 this time. A figure with no original body parts. Yeah, this is a straight repaint of the original. This one is a lot more subdued, with all the garish gold of the first being replaced by black. It's a nice improvement, though he still has a glittery cloak. Honestly, there's not much else to say about this figure.
Except one thing.
I couldn't find a single extra paint application on this new version that was lacking on the original. The first one was already so detailed, they couldn't improve on it, even 16 years later. And that's impressive for a toy from 1986. Oh, and this figure was quite popular at the time. Not because of the toy itself, but because it was part of a 2-pack with the Shock Viper. So, army builders like myself were forced to buy a bunch of Serpentors if they wanted Shock Vipers.
Frickin' Hasbro!
The third toy I want to talk about is from 2005. It was part of a comic book 3-pack that also featured Scrap Iron and Firefly. The comic book that was packed in was a reprint of the first issue that Serpentor appeared in. And at first, it looks like another straight repaint, and it is, mostly, but with one cool difference. This figure has the body of the original Serpentor, but with a brand new head sculpt. This also makes him the only Serpentor that looks angry. The others have a fairly neutral expression.
And the best part?
He's got a removable helmet. That's very cool. Though, if I have to nitpick, they didn't paint the eyes on the Cobra head, so this figure has less paint application than his predecessors. He also came with one less accessory than the previous two, one I haven't mentioned yet, a Cobra snake. I'll talk about that a little more in a future video. The last Serpentor toy we're looking at is from 2007 and has all original body parts. It has the new type body construction from the anniversary and movie lines.
And it's certainly a different take on the character.
The snake motif is much more subdued here. His helmet, for example, still looks a bit like a Cobra head, but it's far more abstract than the original, though he does still have snakes for shoulder pads. By the way, the helmet is technically removable, but it fits so tight on his head, I'm afraid of damaging the figure if I remove it.
The figure does have a familiar look.
This version intentionally invokes the image of a Roman general, rather than snake leader guy. He looks more regal than the original, which is weird considering how much they wanted the first one to be majestic. The only part that fails in pulling off the look is his face. Dude looks confused as hell, like he's not sure how he got there and why he's wearing that outfit. Whether you prefer this look or the original is up to you. I think I'd personally go for the new one. And those were the toys. In conclusion, the ones using the original body were beautifully crafted, but rather silly, with the second one being my favorite. The new one is fresh and different, and the air chariot certainly is unique.
Join me next time as we'll be taking a look at the character, and boy will there be a lot to unpack there. I'll see you later, everybody, and hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing.
Introducing Serpentor, the ultimate Cobra Emperor.
Serpentor, Serpentor, the most evil foe of G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe.
Cobra Emperor comes with air chariot.
Yeah!